Everyone. Excellent. I'm going to make myself the big head for a moment. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us at the virtual Owl's Nest. I am Sarah Johnson. I am the events manager at the bookstore. And tonight, I'm really excited because we have someone coming to share a story of life-changing adventure. And that's sort of one of my favorite things. But before we begin, we take this opportunity gladly in the spirit of reconciliation and decolonization to acknowledge that this land where we live and work and play is the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta, and the city of Calgary is also home to Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. So I'm going to assume that no one knows anything about Zoom, so just bear with me. If you wouldn't mind keeping your mics muted, otherwise we get sound interference. But that said, there's a wonderful feature called the chat. It's a button at the bottom of your screen. If you hit that, it'll open on the side. And I encourage you to use the chat liberally. If you have a comment, if you want to say hi, if you have a question, please feel free to throw that into the chat. There will also be an opportunity for you to unmute yourself and ask a question directly if you like. I will be posting purchase links to Veronica's book in the chat as well. I'm going to do it right now. So if you click that link, that will take you to our web store where you can order a copy of Veronica's book or any book. And we offer contactless curbside pickup. We are offering free citywide delivery. We can also ship anywhere in the world for applicable charges. You can also come just right into the store the old-fashioned way and pick up the book if you prefer. So without further ado, our author tonight. Veronica Trunzo was born and raised in Ottawa, Canada. Sorry, I got to put on my glasses here. And studied art history and literature at the University of Toronto. In 2013, she moved to Siem Reap, Cambodia, where she managed the Lotus Lodge for a few years. In 2016, she then moved to Guangzhou, China, and began her teaching and writing career. Eventually, she left Asia behind with a heavy heart and started over again in Santiago, Chile, where she finished her first novel and began new adventures exploring South America. During the 2020 pandemic, Veronica returned to Canada and is currently traveling coast to coast while finishing her second novel, Pavka's Doll. She plans to be back in Asia by the end of 2021. So please welcome tonight's author, Veronica Trunzo.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that lovely introduction. And thanks so much for being here. I see so many familiar names, a couple of new ones as well. So thanks everyone for taking the time to join and support a local artist and a new author. I really appreciate this. This is actually my very first book event. So thank you, Sarah, for this fantastic opportunity. All right, so I think I know most of you guys. I'm from Ottawa. I wrote my book back in 2018. So I'm going to be talking about Like a Lotus today. Thank you guys, everyone. All right, so I don't really want to focus too much on my writing history today. I kind of want to focus more on something fun and talk a little bit about the main theme of the stories, which is more about travel and adventure and all those fun things. So I kind of want to focus on that today so we can have fun discussions and talk a little bit more about the main theme of the story and what I'm trying to express through the book. So just to quickly give a little history on my writing history. I've really been writing casually my whole life. Since I was a kid, I've always loved writing little stories and love books and reading so much. And I studied literature in university, so books have really been my life. And I'm also an English teacher, so literally language is my life. I kind of got into poetry when I was kind of hit adulthood, and I see Martin here today. I know that I used to read a lot at spoken word events and poetry readings, and kind of got a casual career with my poetry reading and writing. Unfortunately, never made it a professional one, but being able to call myself a novelist or writer has been like an absolute dream come true, to be able to hold a book in my hands. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is being able to actually talk about my actual novel. So just as a little introduction, I want to kind of go back to how this started. And that started back in 2013. So just a little history on how this book came to be. I'm not going to give too much away, you have to read to find out. But way back in 2013, I went through a bit of a breakup, and was kind of in a period of my life where I was a little bit like lost, and felt like I was behind everyone else. He was a wonderful guy, just we were on the different paths and weren't right for each other. So I moved back home with my dad, and was kind of in a place where I kind of felt back at the beginning again of everything, and didn't really know where I was going to go. And that is probably a familiar feeling for many people, where you're kind of just starting over again and you don't really know what to do. And I kind of had a feeling of like, and I have no reason not to do anything. I can just do whatever I want right now. Kind of a sense of bravery almost, because you didn't have anything holding you back. So I was excited to kind of start a new journey. And I was looking to where to begin that new journey, and looking for work and where to live, when this incredible opportunity came up. I like to call it a fateful opportunity, even a little bit of serendipity, because I had this opportunity to go to Southeast Asia to work at a hotel, specifically in Cambodia. It was a really crazy, lucky chance to be able to do something like that. I was going to go alone. I had never traveled alone before. I had never been further than Europe, really. So it was a little bit scary, and kind of something I did on a whim, because I felt like I didn't really have any other reason not to go. So I just went, and it ended up being the best thing that I ever did, because it opened up so many new opportunities and so many new roads to go down. I was originally going to go just for 1 year to run this hotel, actually, in Siem Reap, and that turned into 3.5. And then that ended up turning into another 2 years in China. And that turned into me then moving to South America. So it kind of just started this whole new life that I never thought would happen. And I grew my love of travel very much. So in between that, the period of being in Asia and South America, I had another one of those. I don't know what I'm doing now. I'm kind of in the middle of transition, because I had like let go of my job in China. I was starting a new job. I was back in Canada at the time, waiting for my like, visa stuff to work out for Chile, actually, and didn't really have anything to do in my day. So I decided to finally write a story. So the whole time that I was um, abroad in Asia, I was journaling, another kind of casual type of writing that I made sure I did every day. So I took those journals and threw them into a book, a collection of stories, a collection of experiences and lessons learned, and funny and sad and scary moments that happened to me while I was traveling and living abroad by myself. And I was hoping that that story would perhaps inspire people to take that leap and be brave and do that thing that you always wanted to do, and something that sounds so scary that you think is absolutely insane, and actually going and doing it, because you never know how much of a life-changing event that could be. And that's exactly what moving to Cambodia was for me. So I kind of hope that that would maybe inspire not just girls but anyone to take that leap, and not just do what you believe society wants you to do, and not just do what you're told you should do, but just doing what you feel like is meant for you. So that's kind of how Like a Lotus came to be. I didn't actually think anything would come from it. So I'm really happy that a publisher actually found interest in the story, and so many people have actually found interest enough to want to read it. So thank you everyone also for your support. Anyone here who has read it already, I appreciate it. So I do have some time for questions and a fun little discussion I want to do with our special guest. But before we do that, I thought I would do a short little reading just to get everyone to understand what the topic is of the story. So I'm going to read part of a chapter that takes place in Cambodia, which was my home away from home for so long, and it definitely left a piece of my heart there. And this is kind of a little bit about the culture of this country and what I learned while I was living there, and a little bit of my introduction into freedom and kind of what jump started the rest of my life after moving there. So I'm going to just do a little reading. Everyone wants to sit back and relax. Just a short one from one of my Cambodia chapters, chapter 6. All right. So the second half of my life in Cambodia revolved around my students. I began as a teacher's assistant, really just needing to make some money and pay my rent. But I began to fall in love with it. There was something so rewarding in the look in a child's face when they learn. Teaching children felt so purposeful. I began to gain some experience and learn a bit about how to run a classroom. Eventually, I found an evening job teaching English to young teenagers. It was the beginning of the path I would then follow in life, still to this day. They weren't just my students, they were my friends. They loved to write poetry and play English games, and they always felt comfortable enough to tell me something funny that happened to them that day, or tell me why they were feeling sad. I made my own little riddle games and puzzles to solve. We had days where we would write stories, play word games, perform skits. I was meant to do this. I felt it in my bones. Words and language have always been part of my life, and now I get to share this with others. I felt truly lucky. The kids were inspiring to me as well. They weren't spoiled in any way. They were Cambodian kids with tough lives and no real privileges. Some had elderly relatives they had to help support. Some were learning English so they could get a good job one day and take care of their family. They dreamed of traveling to Disneyland, visiting a beach, or even just playing on a sports team, things I always took for granted as a child. Something so normal for one person is a fantasy to another. Just a few years prior, Cambodia was devastated by the Khmer Rouge. They were a communist party that ruled during the mid-1970s, whose goal was to establish a classless communist country built on a rural, agricultural-based economy. They rejected all forms of capitalism. To do this, they eliminated all use of money, free markets, normal schooling, personal property, foreign fashion, religion, and traditional Khmer culture. Public schools, pagodas, stores, and government buildings were shut down or turned into prisons or re-education camps. Even entertainment was restricted. During the 1970s, hundreds of thousands of intellectuals, professionals, children, teachers, and ex-government officials were killed in a systematic campaign to remove those seen not to be pure. In other words, if you were too educated, rich, or democratically minded, you were murdered. Only farmers and workers were needed in their world. Thousands of people were held in prisons where they were interrogated, tortured, and executed. It is estimated today that almost 25% of the population was killed during this time. And to be honest, I believe it was more than that. One of the sites where these atrocities happened was in the killing fields in Phnom Penh. As an expat in Cambodia, I felt it was important to visit that place to fully understand the suffering and strength of the Cambodian people. That day will stick with me forever. I visited the S21 prison, also known as the Tuol Sleng Museum of Genocide. It used to be a school, but was turned into a prison and torture chamber during the Khmer Rouge reign. Around 14,000 prisoners entered that prison, and only 7 survived. The bottom floor still had school desks and chairs left untouched. The prisoners' beds were all upstairs. It felt eerie. I visited the museum during a solo trip to Phnom Penh, and I don't think I prepared myself for how gruesome and terrifying it really was going to be. I remember walking through the building in complete silence, with shivers running up my spine and tears building up in my eyes. I realized how little I truly knew about the country and about the people. On one wall were horrific photographs of dead bodies chained to beds with pools of blood underneath them. In another building, the walls were covered with hundreds of portraits. There were young children, skinny and starving, some with bruises staring blankly into the camera, some of mothers holding their babies with a look of hopelessness in their eyes. These photographs were kept so the soldiers could prove to their Khmer Rouge leaders that their orders had been carried out. It was horrifying. The fields themselves left an imprint in me that I will never be able to scrub away. There were covered pits of mass graves. There were tree stumps with children and babies were smashed and killed before being buried with their parents. It was silent. Sorry. I could feel the desolation in my veins, but I still will never be able to imagine the suffering felt by so many people. Knowing a bit more about this emotional part of history, you would never guess it by looking in the faces of the local people. They were always so cheerful, so full of life. Every person I would pass on the street would always smile and wave to me. People's faces were full of carefree joy. Children playfully chased me on my bike. Their resilience astounded me. The horrors of yesterday never ruined their joy in today and the dreams for tomorrow. That's why I love lotuses so much. The lotus flower is a sacred flower in Cambodia, and not just because you can see them growing everywhere. Lotuses grow in muddy water, standing tall, where they bloom into large flowers of pinks and whites. In Buddhism, the lotus flower represents fortune and self-regeneration, rising and blooming above the darkness to achieve enlightenment. And that is exactly what Cambodian people are. I found it extremely inspiring and befitting to get a lotus tattoo while I was living in Siem Reap. And that's just how Cambodia made me feel, like a lotus. So I'm gonna skip a little bit. If you guys wanna read, you can read it. All right. Cambodia was my world for over 3 years. It doesn't sound that long, but for me, it was a mini lifetime. Friendships, jobs, relationships, homes, so much changed over those years. It was difficult to leave. The goodbyes broke my heart, but deep down I knew I needed to go. Siem Reap, that whole lifestyle is addicting. It's easy to get sucked in and never leave. I knew I wanted more experience in the teaching field. I knew I needed to save a bit more money. And I felt it was time to follow another path and gain new experiences. Truthfully, I knew I needed to do the adult thing for a little while, or at least my version of it. I arrived in Cambodia as a young, innocent, heartbroken girl, ready to take on anything life threw at her. I was lost, but so excited. I didn't know much. I was quite naive, but I was eager to learn, eager to experience, and eager to try. I left Cambodia as a young woman. I learned more about the world and so much more about who I was. I learned how to be content alone and to trust myself. I embraced change. I grew a much thicker skin, and I felt more confident in my ability to explore and venture out into the unknown. I believe we, as humans, are in a constant state of transformation. Each new person we meet and each new experience we face alters us. It changes the way we think, react, and observe the world. Every single human on this planet sees the world in a different way. We all hold a completely different perception of it. This is not something we can change, but embrace. My perception of the world changed and still changes today with each new encounter, each new adventure, and each new foreign land I walk my feet on. Comfort zones grow, self-assurance strengthens, and new awareness of reality begins to develop. That is one thing about travel that is addicting to me. It changes you. I learned more about the world traveling than I ever did in school. I urge every person, any age, to travel. Venture as far and wide as you can. I promise you, you will come back a changed person. So that's just a little part of one of my Cambodian vouchers. Thank you. Kind of what really changed me from just, I'm going to go have fun. Oh, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go have fun and abroad and travel and see things to, wow, this has really changed my whole perception of the world. So I hope that that inspires someone to maybe take that leap and go on that trip or that adventure you've been hoping to go on. All right, so I wanted to open this time now before a fun little discussion with our guest today for some questions. If anyone wanted to discuss anything, I kind of wanted to keep this more like a discussion, like an open type of Q&A, so everyone can be involved together and we can have a little bit of fun talking about whatever you want to ask today. So if anyone wants to ask a question, you're free to ask now. You can just unmute yourself.
Yeah, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about kind of like taking the big leap to kind of step out there, travel, like life-changing kind of stuff. Do you have any tips for anyone who might be a little hesitant to kind of take that leap, and like where you can find yourself going if you don't have that kind of life-changing event that kind of pushes you out the door?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of have to take that to consideration, that a lot of people can't just get up and leave for 5 years. I know that's not actually very like easy for most people to do. You can absolutely have that adventure and that sense of adventure and travel and excitement and even like life-changing experiences with just a short amount of time. So in all honesty, I want to kind of discuss one of my pet peeves that I meet traveling. Not that I'm trying to like stomp on people's travel experiences, but don't be a list checker offer. So that's a word I just invented, but I've met a lot of people who were like when I was living there, who were like, yeah, I'm here for 2 weeks in Thailand or whatever. Like, oh, cool. What are you going to do? They're like, oh, I'm going to go to Koh Tao, Koh Phi Phi, go to Atlanta. I'm going to go to Bangkok and then Pai and then Chiang Mai. And they're naming like 12 places that they're going to do in like 14 days. And I mean, I understand the desire to see as much as you can when you only have a 10 or 14-day vacation. I totally understand that. And I know that it's a privilege to have more than that. But you're not going to really get that experience by just going and taking a photo in front of that famous temple and checking off the list that you went to XYZ and then moving on to the next place. You might get the really cool photo and you might see some cool things and eat some good food, but you're not really going to get that memory and that experience that's going to stick with you forever. So I would recommend to, if you have like a week or two, to do one, maximum 2 places. That you can always go back, but you're gonna get much more out of your experience if you actually spread it out and really enjoy your time there. So the longer you spend in a place, if you're say in like one city or one island for like a week, you're going to meet the locals. They're going to introduce you to the food that is not on TripAdvisor. And they're going to show you that beach that only locals know about. They're going to take you to that viewpoint that is not on a map. So you're going to get those experiences that an average tourist wouldn't get. If you are just traveling for half a day or a day in one place, you're going to go to the place that everyone is at. And obviously they're still amazing. Like Angkor Wat, for example, is incredible and it's worth going to. But there's so much more to a country and to a town and to an island than just that one tourist spot that TripAdvisor tells you to go to. So I would recommend taking your time and really, really experiencing that one place more than trying to just check off the list and say, I went to all these places, instead of it's like, oh, I went to this one place and it changed me as a person. So that would be my recommendation, because trust me, that list will never get smaller. I spent 5.5 years in Southeast Asia and my list has just grown, and I'm about halfway through it still. And I'll never get more than that, because you go somewhere and you learn about a new place or a new city or a new island. So yeah, I would say that you'll never fill that list out. You'll never check it off, I mean. So enjoy your time in one or two spaces and really learn what it's like there. That would be my advice. Good. I see someone wrote a question. Any plans for any more travel memoirs? Hopefully. COVID is not making that easy. But I do have a plan in the distant future for when I can actually go somewhere again for a decent amount of time, to maybe talk about being abroad and then coming home, because I've actually been home for a year and a half now. And it's the longest I've been home since like 22, since I was 22. So, which was a long time ago. So yeah, I think I'm gonna write eventually about like the experiences of being home and being away, and how that contrasts, and even the adventures you can have in a familiar place. So hopefully one day, hopefully travel will be easier very soon. Thanks for that question. What's your favorite place you visited in Asia? Um, I've had that question so many times, and it's honestly like really hard to answer, to be honest, because it always changes. I mean, I'm kind of biased because obviously Siem Reap, Cambodia is like #1, but I'm like a little biased because it was my home and I loved it so much. So kind of isn't like fair to say that. Obviously, Bali is amazing as well. It's if you read the book, you'll see how much I loved it there. But I'd also have to say that there's one place that I didn't put in the book that I kind of regret not talking about when I went to the Philippines. I didn't want this book to be a travel guidebook. I didn't want to just say, I went here and here and here and it was awesome. I wanted it to be more about how I changed and grew and learned during that time. It's a circular book. So it starts in Canada and it ends in Canada as two very different people. But I do regret not putting the Philippines in there. So for a few reasons, but I'll tell a quick little story that was not in the book. So the Philippines is very untouched. I found it a lot less developed than other countries in Southeast Asia. It was a little bit more poverty stricken. I don't want to say I felt a little unsafe, but I didn't feel super comfortable there in some of the cities. I was traveling alone both times I went. So I stuck to like my hotel and the beaches only. It was a lot less touristy. But the islands were much more beautiful than anywhere else because it's so not touristy. Everything is so untouched by humans. So it's so blue and green and absolutely amazing. But my last day in, where was I? El Nido, sorry. I was in El Nido, which is a really nice island. And I got extremely sick with heat stroke. So I have this awful, for some reason, this very toxic belief that because I have Italian blood in me, I don't need sunscreen, which is sometimes true, but it's not true in Southeast Asia. And I was on a fishing boat like all day and I got a little burnt, but I think because I was in the sun and didn't drink enough water, the next day I could not get out of bed. I couldn't keep even water down. Couldn't eat. I couldn't barely move. I was sweating, but also cold. I was feverish. I was so sick. I've never actually been that ill before, like with fever and stuff. And I'm on a tiny island in Philippines with probably not even anything that would be considered a hospital. So I was like super scared about that. It was my last day there, thankfully, but I stayed in bed the entire day. And on top of that, the power goes out a lot there. So I didn't even have a standard fan or air conditioning the whole time. My water got warm. I had no fridge. It was just like, I'm sitting there just sweating in plus 40 it was just really awful. I'm not trying to deter you. Philippines is great, but that experience was really, really bad. So that day I had to fly, the next day, sorry, I had to fly to Cebu, which is another island. It was on my itinerary and I already had my hotel and everything booked. So I like crawled myself out of bed, packed up. I don't know how I did this. I didn't even have medicine. There wasn't even a pharmacy nearby. Like it was, when I say it's untouched, I mean it. I don't know how I did it. I crawled myself to the airport. The airport didn't even have walls, by the way. Like it's a little tiny plane under like a bamboo roof. So there's no real, like there's barely electricity in this place. So I'm sitting there waiting in line for my ticket and I start to like just get dizzy. I remember some American couple like taking care of me at the airport. I don't know how, thank God for strangers sometimes, but they like put me on a bench and got my ticket for me. The kindness of strangers really does save you a lot. And so I managed to get on the plane, freezing cold, got in a taxi for about 2 hours to get down to Oslob, which is where I was staying, which is this beach on the very south of the island. I slept on the back of the taxi because I couldn't even like sit up. I got to my hotel, like I barely put some food in my belly and just like went to sleep. 2 days, I I guess like the next day I was able to like walk, but I didn't really do much. I just kind of like relaxed at the hotel and sat on the beach in the shade and drank a lot of water. Um, and the next day, I think it was like the third day or something, I had already booked a shark tour where you can go on a boat and go see sharks. And I almost didn't go because I was like, no, this is stupid. I really need to rest. But this like little thing in me was like, you're leaving tomorrow. Like, take this opportunity. I never turned down a chance to do something exciting. So I like forced myself to get up and go on this boat and drive out like an hour into the middle of the ocean with some other tourists, just like in a hat and like just covered in a blanket, like just like trying not to throw up. It was just like, okay, just go and just do it. So I thought I'll take a photo of the sharks from above. But then we got out there and I was reminded by the guy driving, the fisherman guy, that they were whale sharks. So those really big guys with the big mouths, and they're like flat like a pancake. And they had lured them with some food, so they were all swimming around our boats. And I swear it was like this rush of adrenaline, of like traveler's adrenaline, I called it, that just cured me for like an hour. And I'm like, holy crap. And I jumped in the water and I was like swimming with these whale sharks. And it was the most incredible moment. It was like we weren't separated. So they were like right there. Yeah, and I got back on the boat after about 20 minutes of swimming, and I instantly felt sick again, but it was like the adrenaline had worn off. But it was one of the coolest things ever. The Philippines is full of experiences like that because it's so untouched. They don't have like really controlled tours. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but it's very like rugged, so you can kind of really be in there in the nature, in the ocean. So even if you're sick, like I got, it was worth I don't even remember the feeling of being sick. I didn't remember swimming with those sharks. So I think that was something I kind of wish I put in the book, but maybe it was supposed to be just a nice story I tell a few people. So I'm glad I got to tell you that. But yeah, it was a really cool place. It was really nice. And I recommend it if you like real adventure. The Philippines is super cool. Anyways, yeah. Any others before we continue on? We'll have more time at the end. Oh yeah.
If you had to take one positive and one cautionary lesson from all of your traveling, what would those two be?
Oh. So one cautionary and one what, sorry?
One positive lesson and one cautionary lesson from traveling.
Okay. Positive would be the best memories come from the ones that you don't have your phone. And I'm a really bad one to say that because I love my phone. I love pictures and I'm always taking photos and posting on social media. So it's kind of ironic if you know me that I'm saying that. But definitely know your moments when to have your phone, and definitely know your moments when not to, because the best memories for me are the ones where I didn't have my phone because I was having so much fun, I forgot. So yeah, if you can put your phone away for a while, like those will be the best memories in my opinion. So yeah, that would be my positive lesson. Negative or cautionary, I would say bring medicine from home, like basic things like stomach, like what's it called, Pepto-Bismol and like Tylenol or something like that, like just the basic medicines, because I don't want to give it away, but I do have a story in here of when I got really sick in China and could not get medicine from the pharmacist because I couldn't speak Chinese and he couldn't speak English. And I ended up taking something that I thought was good that ended up making me more sick. I don't even know what it was. It like made me feel like I was flying. It was like some crazy, I don't know what it was. And it really freaked me out because I had no idea what I just ingested. So I would recommend cautionary, be careful when you get sick, go to a Western hospital if possible, like an international place, or just always take some medicine with you, like just Pepto-Bismol stuff and headache things and painkillers, because they have versions there, but some countries, they like change it. So it's not the same ingredients or same amounts and it will mess you up. So that would probably be something that just kind of sticks to my mind right away. You can read more about that from the China chapters. All right. If there's no more questions right now, I actually wanted to introduce a special guest today, Mitch StPierre. Are you here, Mitch?
Yeah, can you guys see me, hear me?
Yeah, great.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for coming.
Good to see you, Veronica.
It's so good to see you and talk to you, and I'm so glad that you're here. I haven't seen you in so long. So for anyone who hasn't read Like a Lotus yet, Mitch is the reason why I actually went to Cambodia. So he was the owner of the Lotus Lodge back in the great old days. And he was hiring someone to come help him run the place. And I got lucky enough to have been chosen. I have no idea how, because I have zero hotel management experience, and neither does he. So, we were a great little team that somehow managed to keep it running for so long. But he was really the reason why I came there, and kept inspiring me to keep going and to keep traveling and stuff. So I wanted him to come here because he was such a big part of the story and the beginning of it. So yeah, thanks for coming, Mitch. I really appreciate it. So you're kind of an exciting adventurer too. So I was hoping that you would share your very fun, exciting story about what brought you to Cambodia and why you ended up buying a hotel there. So if you want to share your story.
Yeah. So first, I like Veronica was saying, my name is Mitch. I'll first start with the story of how Veronica got to Cambodia, because I think it makes it a little bit more interesting that I tell that part. So my brother was living in Canada. I was living in Cambodia, which I'm in Cambodia at the moment, actually. And like Veronica was saying, we had the hotel, and I was there kind of by myself, right? I have a wheelchair, and I was in Cambodia, in this random kind of country by myself, and I wanted to have somebody there that was from Canada. I was there with all the local people, and I was kind of feeling a little bit stressed out, running this hotel. Like Veronica said, I have no experience in hotel management. My background is in politics in Canada. So we put out this ad in, I think it was, where was it? Somewhere we put out this ad.
Gigi, I think.
Yeah, so to make it sound even more sketchy, we put this ad on Kijiji, and we had a lot of people respond to the ad to come to Cambodia, because we paid for the trip over, and it's this to stay in this hotel overseas. And my brother was sending me from Canada all these. I think we had you write up like a page-long description of yourself.
I had to write an email like why you want to move to Cambodia, like what made you to move there. So I put my heart and soul to this email. Yeah,
so I was kind of more inclined to choose somebody that was not based on experience, because I had no experience also, but I was more inclined to pick somebody that I knew that I was gonna get along with, because I'm like, okay, if I'm gonna be in this country with somebody, I need to make sure that person I'm going to get along with. So I was reading through them. My brother sent me Veronica's. I was like, oh, check out this person. She sounds cool. You guys will probably get along. And I was reading her description, and the way she talked, I was like, okay, yeah, I know I'm going to get along with her. and it was true. And we got along great. And Veronica and I have been, traveling. We were in Istanbul last year, was it?
Yeah, right before COVID hit, like literally.
Yeah. Oh no, that was like 2 years ago then.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah.
So we still meet up, and I was supposed to go meet her this weekend or last weekend in the United States, but COVID and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more difficult for me to leave Cambodia. But yeah, so how did the hotel start? I was traveling through Cambodia, years before, and I had made a film here. It actually aired on CBC back in 2011, 2012, and then 2014, something like that. So we made this film in Cambodia, and, I went back to Canada, and I got back into politics, but my boss, she lost the election. So I remember being on a flight, and my mom was like, Mitch, I know you guys are coming back from Cambodia, but your boss, she lost the election, so now you don't have a job. And I was like, oh, okay. So I thought, okay, I'll just go work for another politician. You know, when you're in Parliament, it's easy to kind of just move to another office. But then I thought to myself, maybe I'll do something a little bit different. And so I go to my buddy Scott, and I said to him, I said, yo, instead of like staying in Canada, why don't we just move back to Cambodia? Let's go to Cambodia again. We can start an NGO, we can start a business, or we could do, you know, whatever, we'll figure it out. So me and my buddy were having a couple of drinks at my place one night, you know, on Google. And we're looking at like NGOs, businesses. And we randomly found this beautiful hotel. And it was all on the ground floor, which would make it easier for me to, you know, get around with my wheelchair. And, you know, we put a couple ramps in here and there, and we went there and it was beautiful. We bought the hotel from a Dutch guy who, I don't know if he, yeah, oh, that's another story, but
That guy.
yeah, so we went to the hotel. Veronica came a couple months later, and then the rest is history.
Yeah. And just a little side note is when I saw the ad, and I was applying, and I was talking to Mitch and his brother, and through email only. And like his brother, who is in Canada, told me, oh, Mitch and his friend will meet you at the airport and take you to the hotel. Like in my head, I was like, I'm either going to go on the adventure of my lifetime, or I'm going to get kidnapped and murdered. Like it was one of those like things. I was like, I hope this is like legit. But yeah, like you kind of listen to your gut. That's my advice too. And I just knew it was good. And it was,
I don't know if I wanted to tell the story related to that. So my buddy and I, we were joking. We're like, oh, we got to go pick up Veronica at the airport. You know, we're going to go meet her. We've never met her before. You know, I never seen pictures of her. I didn't know anything. And we were joking. I don't know if this is a bad joke or if it's going to be offensive, but we were joking that we were going to get a white van to pick her up at the airport. And then once she got it was a joke. It was a
yeah,
joke.
I know.
Obviously, we didn't go through with it. We were gonna pick her up at the airport, and then as soon as she got in the van, we were gonna be like, "Hey, give us your passport." But obviously, that is. I know it's not a bit.
Yeah, no, they didn't do it, but like now knowing
that would have been really bad.
It would have, yeah, I probably would have been like, nope. But now knowing it's hilarious because you and Sean are just so funny. Yeah, and obviously now it's funny. But yeah, I remember they joked about that. I'm like, well, thank God you didn't, because I wouldn't have even like left the airport if I saw a van waiting for me. But yeah, they picked me up in a tuk-tuk. I don't know if you guys know what a tuk-tuk is, but it's basically their version of taxis. So it's like a motorbike pulling like a cart, and you sit in the cart and they drive you. And sometimes it's a bicycle and stuff. And yeah, so they picked me up in that. So it was like right away, it was this cultural, amazing experience. And yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, because of Mitch and Sean being so awesome when I first arrived, I ended up like really wanting to stay. And we managed to keep that hotel going for like 2 years, 2 more years until you guys decided to sell it. But yeah, it was a really good time. So thanks for sharing it. If anyone has any questions they wanted to ask Mitch, he has such cool stories and such a cool history. If anyone wants to ask him anything, you're free to ask him something now. Otherwise, I can ask him a couple things. If anyone wants to go.
I have a question. With two people with no hotel management experience, like how did that go?
How long do we have? It went like actually okay. Because me and Mitch, like I would say we gave that hotel personality. Like, so Siem Reap is like a very small town. It's one of those towns where everyone knows everyone, like expat wise. So me and Mitch were the Lotus Lodge people. It's called the Lotus Lodge. So we had lots of like parties there. We held events, like lots of charity events there. Obviously in a town like that, you have lots of those. We gave it a personality. Like we had a YouTube channel for a while. We had a big online presence, and we just kind of gave a character. The business side of it, we kind of went with it. I don't know, Mitch, how do you think? How do you think we kept it going?
You know, I like to say, you know, in anything that I've ever done in my life, even politics, I don't have any background in politics. In my education is in business marketing. And, when I got into politics, you just wing it. You learn it once you're forced into a situation. I think you sort of go into this survival mode, right? So I think, obviously not if I wanted to be a doctor, I couldn't do that, right? That wouldn't make any sense. But in certain fields, I think you could just sort of wing it and kind of learn as you go. And that's what we did. And we did really well at the hotel. And yeah, it's just, like I said, just wing it. Once you're forced in a situation, you'll figure it out.
Like we learned like 1 month something didn't work. Like we're like, okay, well, we accidentally overbooked ourselves. So how can we do this better? So then next month we came up with an awesome computer system to keep track of rooms that we reserved for guests and things like that. Like we kind of learned every month. And some months were great, some were not. Eventually, Siem Reap just got quite. It was such a when I got there, it was like the place to go and the place to start a business, and it was like bumping and upcoming. But by the time it was the end of our time with the Lotus Lodge, there was just like, Mitch, what did we go from? We had like 100 hotels that we competed against to like 350 or something like that.
Yeah, the market got so oversaturated with hotels.
And
so it was but by the end of our time at Lotus Lodge, it was becoming one of the most stressful, crazy situations I think that Veronica and I were probably both in.
It was crazy. Like, honestly, like just trying to keep it afloat because we had we just had, instead of being like having, a few hotels to compete with where we were pretty much full every high season, we were competing with way too many that it was like impossible to keep it going. And we had to just like, it was like it went from like having this enjoyable time to how can we make the hotel better? It became to like surviving every month until finally him and Mitch sold it. So yeah.
And there are some things that you just can't really control. I mean, one of the things that I think we should have done was to invest into a generator.
Yeah.
The power, is on and off in Cambodia a lot of times, especially back then. And I remember one time we had a busload of Vietnamese kids. They were soccer players or something like that. So imagine these guys are getting into Cambodia. They're all excited. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna go take a shower, and we're gonna go swimming," and they're all happy and stuff. They get to the hotel. There's no power, no water, and I just remember some of the kids. They would come up to me and they were like, "Excuse me, sir. We would really love to take a shower. Is that okay? Can you guys turn the water?" And it was just so, I remember feeling so awkward because the entire time they stayed there. And imagine being in the heat at about 33, 35 degrees with no fan, no air conditioner. I remember seeing people sleeping outside. That was a really horrible.
At one point, all the guests were sleeping next to the pool. Like it was, so a lot of things happened out of our control. And then, you get 1 or 2 bad reviews and that's like, you're done in that industry.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was tough. But yeah, it was an adventure. Honestly, I would write a book just about that place and just about the things that happened there and the guests we had and but there was a lot of good times, a lot of cool events. I've talked about that here as well a lot, but it was a good time.
There's actually a CBC documentary called Hotel Cambodia.
How about that?
That Veronica and I are in.
Yeah, so these guys came who to our hotel, and he was like what was he? He was like a
filmmaker.
A filmmaker, and he's like, "You guys have a really cool story," and he like just filmed a documentary there for a couple of weeks, and it was just like a fun thing that was going on at the time, and then it ended up going on CBC. And I saw it like years later. I'm like, oh my God. And you just turn it on, you're like, oh my God, that's me on television. It was like, I didn't actually think that would ever get sold, but it did. So if you ever see CBC and see a show called Hotel Cambodia, that's me. Yeah, it was fun. So a lot of cool times in that place. Any last questions for Mitch? Oh, I see someone said, are you going to write a book? Which you should do, by the way, man.
I've been asked and told about that quite often, but my writing skills are not as eloquent as Veronica. So
Mitch is a film.
If I could write, decently, I probably would. A lot of my stories are kind of rated R. No, I'm not. they're pretty wild, but
It's just some
yeah.
crazy things. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a filmmaker. I think you're a filmmaker. So I feel like you would do better making like a documentary about things that's happened to you. It would be really
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Any last questions for Mitch?
Oh, I see, Mitch, you're still in Cambodia. What are you up to now? So I after the hotel, I went back to Canada and I started working for the Trudeau government, and I was there for like 3 years. And I remember being in my office watching my friends in Cambodia, their live videos on Facebook, you know, just out at the local bar and having a great time. And I would be sitting there in my office drinking my Tim Hortons. And I was just thinking like, oh man, I got to get back there. And, you know, I had a really great job. I loved it. I loved politics. It was one of the coolest things I've done, you know, like I'd go to Parliament Hill every day, and, you know, I'd meet with like sometimes like the Prime Minister of England and Colombian president, like all these crazy people that would come there. So that was great. But after 3 years, I remember I go to my boss one day and he's like, Mitch, are you gonna go to Cambodia this year on vacation like you do every year? And, you know, I'd come here for like a month or so and I'd go back to Canada. And I told him, I said, yeah, I'm gonna go, but this time I'm not gonna come back. I'm just gonna stay there. And he's like, what are you gonna do? And, you know, I started, while I was in Canada, I also started an online business in trading, finance, investments, that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much what I'm doing out here right now. I work every day on online, stuff like that. So
Living the
yeah.
dream.
And I'm in Phnom Penh right now because Siem Reap, where me and Veronica were, is sort of pretty wild right now. I mean, it's under crazy restrictions. They went to develop the streets and stuff, but they've been doing it for like a year, and the whole city is just like destroyed. I don't think they're doing it properly, because if you look at Siem Reap, Veronica, the city looks like how it was probably back like 20 years ago.
Yeah, I saw pictures. Yeah, because they decided to rip up the roads and redo them, which is fair. They should, but like it's not like they're properly trained workers.
Yeah, I remember I you know those big yellow Caterpillar heavy equipment machines.
Mm-hmm.
I swear I was driving by one day and there was a 10-year-old kid driving one of those massive Caterpillar machines with the big rolly thing that makes the concrete flat. And I just remember I was just thinking, I'm like, man, his dad probably got tired and he's like, son, go do the job for me. Yeah.
It's like that there. It was like very, like, I remember just biking to work some days and seeing like, you know, like the construction workers, like with those, I don't know what they're called, like like when they rip up like the sidewalk, and he had like flip-flops on, you know, some guy like hanging from a pole, like, you know, taking telephone wires and just like, you know, with his like shorts and just like, well, I think this goes here. Like, so yeah, when I saw that they were doing that, I'm like, oh, especially now with the loss of money in that city, unfortunately, with tourism dropping, I feel like they're just never going to get to the road. It's unfortunate.
And, you know, I wasn't big on big cities, but Phnom Penh's kind of grown on me. The place I'm staying right now is this really beautiful resort place, and it's right in the city, but it's good. I like it. I'll go back to Siem Reap at some point later on.
When the roads are done.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Mitch. Any last questions before we continue with our next exciting part of the event? We're okay? All right. Well, thank you so much, Mitch, for sharing so much. I really appreciate it. You are always fun to talk to and have such a cool story. It was great to have you part of it. And it's morning there, so I appreciate you being up.
Yeah, I gotta go get a coffee now.
Thank you,
Mitch. Great to see everybody, and Veronica, I'll see you later.
Hopefully very soon, I hope.
Yeah.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, guys, thanks for listening. Mitch is super fun. I wish we had longer to talk, just us, because he's like all together, because he's really cool and has so many stories. But we are going to move on to our fun activity, our quiz. So I thought for fun, we can do a little Kahoot quiz today. And I actually have some prizes that I'm going to show you. So obviously our prizes are travel related because of the theme today. So I have a few prizes for you guys today, or for whoever wins the quiz. So first we have, actually just a little side note, I've been super obsessed with supporting local since this pandemic started. So I bought some really cool things from local businesses in Alberta, where I am right now. So first we have a travel kit. This is actually from Liberty Clothing, who are in Canmore, and they're absolutely amazing and really good quality stuff. So this could be for like toiletries or whatever you need to take on your carry-on with you on the airplane. It's fantastic. And of course, another very important essential, not just in today's world, but also just for travel reasons, is some hand sanitizer. This is actually from Rocky Mountain Soap Co., which you probably heard of if you're in the West. Absolutely amazing, like super green and animal cruelty free and all that. So this is obviously important essentials for your travel needs. And finally, of course, you have a signed copy of Like a Lotus. It's a small paperback one, so it's very easy to travel with, and your own little bookmark and something to take on your carry-on with you for your flight. So you have all your travel needs for your carry-ons for your next flight on an airplane, hopefully soon. So that are your prizes for today. So I'm going to share my screen for a moment and show you our Kahoot quiz. I don't know if you guys have ever used Kahoot before. It's super fun. I use it as a teacher, but I also enjoy using it just for like everyday things, because it's like just the funnest thing ever. So if everyone can take out, if you want to join, it's really fun. Take out a phone. You just need to go, it's taking its time here. I'll show you as well on mine. So if you go to kahoot.it, just like that, and then you can enter in the game PIN number, and that's how you join. It's really easy. Yeah, I'll show you how it looks when you do it, in case anyone has never used this before. When you enter the PIN, you can just put a nickname and that's it. And then it's multiple choice, and you just click the colors that whatever you think is the answer. So I'll give everyone a couple minutes to enter. And whoever is the winner, if you can just like send me a message in the chat box or an email later if you'd like, and with your mailing address, and I will mail you the prize. Or if you're local, if you're in Calgary area, I'll leave it at the Owl's Nest for you to pick up this week. So whatever is easier for you. But yeah, if you're far away, I will happily send it to you. Okay. I'll give maybe another 30 seconds, then I'm gonna start. And it's kind of related to Asia generally. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna start. I know some people have to leave, no problem. All right. What is the capital of Vietnam? So you want to choose the appropriate color on your phone to whatever you think the answer is. And you have a timer. Good job, whoever gets Hanoi. Well done. Good job, good job. Okay. In which city is Angkor Wat located? Good work. Seam Reap. That's where I was. Not Phnom Penh. That's kind of a trick question. Okay. So which movie was filmed at Tháp Prom Temple, the one in the picture in Cambodia? There was a very special movie filmed there. Ah, good job. Tomb Raider, Laura Croft. Well done. Okay, James for the win. Okay, which of the following is a Thai dish? So food that would be from Thailand. Good work, obviously. Pad Thai, good work. If you have never had Pad Thai, I recommend going to a restaurant ASAP and getting one. It's fantastic. Okay. Oh, James is the one to beat. In which Chinese city is the Forbidden City located? Beijing. Yeah, not Guangzhou, not where I was. It's actually it's in the capital. Ooh, Tom's the winner so far. Okay, what is the population of China? This is actually kind of a hard one. No one got it. 1.3 billion. Yeah, I actually also thought it was 2 billion. I had to Google that. So yeah, just over a billion now. What does ko mean in Thai, in the Thai language? Oh, it is island. Good try, everybody. That's why it's called like ko pp, ko lanta, ko tau. So it means the island and then the name. So yeah, ko means island. But good guesses. All right. What famous movie was filmed in Bangkok? Give you a clue, it's fantastic. Let's see. The Beach. Well done. So that's with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's actually one of his very first films. It's a great one. Good job, James. Yeah, and just a funny side story. So there's the beach is like, it's like a bay and it's the actual beach where it was filmed and you can actually go there. So you can be on the beach all day where it was filmed, and then you go back to the main island. This is actually on Koh Phi Phi, and they have a bar there that plays the beach every night. So you can go to the beach and then watch the beach. Kind of cool. Little side story there. All right, which island is located in Indonesia? So which one is Indonesian? Gili Trawangan, good job. Phu Quoc is in Vietnam, and obviously the Ko's are Thai. So we call it actually Gili tea. Yay, good work. All right, which country in Southeast Asia is most populated? Indonesia. I actually didn't even know that myself. Oh, James. Okay, which two countries touch Mount Everest? Sometimes slow. Good. Nepal and Tibet. Well done. Nepal and India is a common mistake too. So good work. Okay, some changes. Grammar mistake. It should be, what is the biggest export from Cambodia? So what does Cambodia export the most of? That's a hard one. It is textiles. And I didn't know that until I moved there and saw how amazing all their like silks are and stuff. It's just, but yeah, rice is a common one to mistake. Good job, Tea Cow. What is the main religion in Nepal? At a time. Nepal is Hinduism. Buddhism is like the most common mistake. It's actually mostly Hindu there. And it's really beautiful. They have the most beautiful Hindu temples. Nobody. I know it's a tough one. Almost done. Which river runs through Laos? Mekong. Good work. Delta is made up. Nile is Egypt, and Yangtze is China, actually. Good work. Last one. Angkor beer is a famous beer from which country? Cambodia. Angkor, right? Angkor Temple. So let's see who wins. Okay. James, very good work. Good job. So you'll be getting your travel kit, signed book, and hand sanitizer very soon. So thank you very much for doing that. Well done. Okay, I'm going to stop the share for a moment. All right, guys. So we're just going to finish up shortly with, I know everyone's getting a little tired. Thank you so much for sticking around. So we're going to do one more short reading, just kind of because I started with the beginning of what I felt when I first moved to Southeast Asia. So I thought I would calm us all down and slow us down from this fun event with a little reading of the end of my time there and the things that I kind of learned towards the end. So I just have a couple of short paragraphs from 2 different chapters that take place in Nepal. So if you've read the book, I actually finished my travels in Asia in Nepal when I did a big hike there through the Himalayas. It was a really exciting, very crazy exciting few weeks hiking by myself. I ended up meeting some wonderful other hikers and we kind of stuck together. So during that time, I kind of learned a few things. I wanted to share a few of those with you. And then I'm going to share a couple of photos that I have, and then that's pretty much it for today. So I'm going to start with one thing that I kind of felt when I was hiking in Nepal and the freedom that I felt there. So we, meaning me and the other hikers I met, we had no worries, no stresses. It was like life didn't exist outside those mountains for us. We had no contact, no news updates or work emails. I wasn't even thinking about China or going back to Canada. It was just us, talking about our lives, our goals, our childhoods. We played games, we told funny stories, we ordered more food. We ordered a lot of food, by the way, from the tea houses that we were staying in tea houses. So it was someone's house and we stayed there and they would cook for us. So that's how that went. Nothing else mattered. The only thing that mattered was hiking to the next stop tomorrow, how dry our boots were, and if we all had enough warm clothes. There were no back of my mind thoughts, no worries, no due dates or chores, no phone messages or social media notifications. Just today. It was like I escaped from reality. It was an amazing feeling, a truly free feeling. It was also dangerous because once you experience it, it's hard to go back. And one last little thing I learned on my very end of my experience there. All right, so towards the end of my trip. The next thing I knew, I was packing up my bag and heading for the bus to take me to the airport in Kathmandu. That was it. My adventure was over. Time to go back to Canada. It was surreal. Where did the time go? Time is a crazy thing. We are so controlled by it. It dictates every moment in our lives. When to wake up, leave the house, head to the office, go to the gym, eat, sleep, cook, relax. Time consumes our every decision, our every action. But time is such an illusion. Sometimes in life, you might get lucky enough to escape it. You get to just live in moments. Eat when you're hungry, rest when you're tired, stop and enjoy the moment when you want to. Time doesn't really exist. It's something humans created to keep things running, to organize our days. The present moment is the only thing that truly exists. We must learn to enjoy that fact. Don't stress about the future. Don't live in the present. Don't live in the past, sorry. Enjoy the moment you're living in right now. You'll never get it back again. And that's the truth I hope to live the rest of my life by. Appreciate and relish this current moment you're living in. Enjoy every aspect of it. Soak everything up. That's the only reality we actually have. So that was one of the last lessons that I learned before I came back to Canada. Yeah, so I hope everyone enjoyed that and learned a little bit from what I learned there. So I'm going to kind of finish up today with one last little share here. Maybe guys over here. And I actually have a few photos that I thought you might appreciate seeing, just since I've talked about so many places. And also, if you've read the book, you've read about some of the places. So I wanted to kind of show you some of the pictures here. So here's just a photo in Cambodia, just to show you what I mean by not just going to the one place on your list and actually, or not going to many places on your list, sorry, and actually enjoying the one place for a long time, because then things like this get to happen. You get to actually go to places where there's no tourists. This is not Angkor Wat. This is like a random temple that's just as beautiful that nobody knows about unless you talk to a local and they show it to you. So that's why I really, really suggest to pick one place and really soak it in. Here are some of the staff from our hotel. They actually brought me out a lot. I am like right there. They brought me out a lot and showed me some really cool places that, again, maybe tourists wouldn't really see. So this is just a random waterfall in the middle of the jungle. I think I talked about it in the book a little bit. They were all just absolutely wonderful and kind of became my family for a while. This is kind of a funny story. I don't want to tell you too much about it because you kind of have to read about it. This is in the first Cambodia chapter. I talk about how they brought me out for a barbecue and they brought no food with them. And that was because they found their own food and then cooked it. So I'm not going to tell you what we were looking for in the water, but this is exactly why if everything comes to an end in this world, we would all be in trouble and they would be fine because they would survive no matter what. They could find their food in the mud and in the side of the road. So yeah, I would recommend reading about this because it's a very, very interesting day. Here it's just, oh, there's me and Mitch and some lovely people who used to live as expats in the city as well in Siem Reap. That was one of our parties and events that we hosted at the hotel. We used to have a lot of fun there and always invite people over. So we'd have a lot of fun. And here, just so you can put an idea to your mind, this is the Lotus Lodge. This is the pool in the back. So the restaurant was on this end and everyone would relax around here. And this is a view from the top of the water tower. So this is what the hotel looked like. So this here was the restaurant. And then you have like a little walkway. And then on the other side was all the rooms. And they were all like opened out to the outside. So it was very very outdoor centered. So it's a really lovely place. You really felt like you were in the jungle there. It's such a beautiful place, and I miss it very much. And that's from my Indonesia chapter. That's just what a volcano looks like there. They're very big. I didn't realize volcanoes made mountains so massive, but that was my very first hiking experience, which you can also read about. And that's just Guangzhou. When I say it's a big modern city, I mean it. It's a very, very big city. I talk about this place as well. This is called Zhangjiajie. I hope I'm saying that right. It's in China. It's actually where they filmed Avatar, the movie. Erosion caused these mountains to form that aren't really mountains. They just kind of made the land just like look like big towers. And you can walk up them, and it's like nothing I've ever seen. It was super alien. So yeah, if you ever plan a trip to China, this place was so cool. And honestly, like nothing else. They weren't like mountains that exist anywhere in the world that I can think of. It was really cool. These are my students in China. I just had to share them because I just love them so much and miss them so much. I do talk about them quite a lot in my China chapters because they actually taught me so much about the country and about what lack of freedom really is like, living in a country like that. And how much they had to, how much harder they had it than we would, and how difficult it was for basic things there. And really in China, they don't really have a lot of chances to express themselves and to be open and to be verbal and to be creative. They just aren't taught that. They're taught to like study hard, get a good job, and fuel the economy of our country. They don't really have a chance to be free or to be who they are. So at my school that I used to work at, we would host a lot of like art events and like come and make masquerade masks or whatever. We had a different thing, a different theme every week. And I'm talking not just high school kids, but like men in suits and grandmas. Like they would just come and just be kids and just have fun and do all these things because they never got a chance to do this growing up or in school, even something simple like coloring. So it was really interesting to see how different life is there, and how you can't suppress the creative mind no matter what you do. I'm not going to talk too much about this. You'll have to read Nepal, but that is Ricky. She's mentioned a lot in the book at the end, and that's part of our hike there. And Nepal was a beautiful time. This is also part of a story. If you are going to read it, it gives you a little visual of the top of a mountain that had apple pie waiting for us. So we hiked there in the low season, but there's always like one or two people in the villages that are waiting to feed like the handful of hikers that come by. And yeah, there was someone waiting up there with apple pie. That's the best apple pie I've ever had. And finally, that is the awesome crew I met while hiking, and we only spent like 2 weeks together, but it's like we got close like family. It's crazy how those extreme moments really bring you together. So I don't know if I'll ever see any of them again, but they definitely have a special place in my memories and in my heart. And that's us after we hiked over this pass in the Himalayas. And when I describe in the book that it was covered in prayer flags, I'm not kidding. It was covered in prayer flags. All right, guys, thanks for looking at that. I hope that helped you with some visuals about some of the places I mentioned, and give you an idea of some of the people I talk about a little bit. So I think we're just coming to an end. If there's any last questions, feel free to ask now. Otherwise, I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your night in the middle of a week to come here for my very first event. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me to see so many familiar faces and names. I actually just finished my second one. It's not travel necessarily, it's more of a historical fiction, but I'm hoping that will be out some point at the end of next year. So we'll see. Thank you for that question. So yeah, if you haven't read this, if you're interested in travel, thank you at all. I recommend giving it a read and seeing if it inspires you to take that leap and to find your home on the journey, because that's what I did with my adventure. So hope it inspires you as well. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate the time you took and the questions, and I hope to see you again soon. And thank you so much again. And thank you again, Owl's Nest, for this opportunity.
Oh, our absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Veronica. This has been fascinating, and I can really tell like that you're speaking from your heart when you talk about these experiences. And it's and thank you to Mitch for chiming in and telling us some great stories. I can just imagine you could have written a whole book just about that. If you didn't manage to snag a book online, we have lots of copies in the store. It makes a great gift for the traveler in your life too. If you had fun tonight, check out owlsnestbooks.com and our events page. You can see all the fun things that we have coming up, mostly virtual for the foreseeable future. So if you want to, our events are always free. Everyone is welcome. So if you see something you like, go ahead and register and sign up for that. But until then, from our nest to yours, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, be well, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Sarah. Bye, everybody. Thank you again. And I will get the prize to you, James. Bye-bye.
Good night.